Wow. We're getting to the real nitty gritty now, people. 1-800-449-8255. Fabulous. Clark the Shark Show. And Social Distortion, Mommy's Little Monster. Wow. Talk about taking me back to being 17, 18. Redondo Beach, Torrance, 1982, 83, 84. I mean, everyone knows there's probably not a band or probably not music that influences Clark the Shark from the Greenhouse Effect more than this album. And you can hear it in Waiting for Your Love to Fail, Star, Ben is Dead, all of them, baby, even White Black Song. There's a little bit of Mike Ness and Social Distortion in everything Sharky does. Some might say Greg Ginn and, Black Flag, of course, of which are more punk rock than this. I mean, to me, Social Distortion is just rock and roll. These guys are like Tom Petty or something. They're not all fast and crazy like other punk bands. And to me, this isn't even punk rock. This is just good rockin', music. And this album is just too early because they recorded this like in a club. And the guitars are really snarling. They got this killer live feel to this recording they did at the Casbah or wherever, man. It's just fucking killer. The guy that died on guitar, really fucking amazing, grimy, grungy, distorted, noisy sounds. And of course, Mike, it's just a noisy album. Yeah, to a lot of people, this might seem repetitious. And, but to me, Clark the Shark, it just brings back memories of South High and my youth and hanging out with Alan Mulch and playing hockey with Jim Moody down in Walteria and Torrance. And of course, listening to this on a ghetto blaster and then going home to my house and playing this downstairs at 251, along with Black Flag and all the other noisy shit. And I just wanted to play in a punk band or play some kind of underground noisy rock because of this album, because of Black Flag, because of punk rock in general. I just wanted to be this noisy, grimy, grungy, noisy guy. And of course, I would meet up with this guy from Redondo Beach who lived down near Prospect and Del Amo, where it turns into Camino Real, a guy named Mike O'Brien. And him and me and the bass player from Death and Taxes, Tom Shannon, we, of course, would form the band Repeated Beating. And we would play some shows. And, of course, one infamous show at Madame Wong's, where the three of us, we each played each other's instrument. It was quite interesting. I was on drums, Mike was on guitar, and of course Tom was on bass. But by the end of the night, I had played bass and guitar, and we just made this awful noise. And it was in honor of noisy music like Social Distortion, like Black Flag, like Bad Religion, like all those bands. I don't really like the Sex Pistols. Of course, I know everything by them. But to me, they're generic. And in some weird way, this first album is just too early. I've talked to people that say, you get sick of listening to this. Every song sounds the same. I don't know. I kind of agree and I kind of don't. It's kind of repetitious. I get sick of Mike's voice. But I love it, man, because South High, 1982, 83, El Camino, 1984. Just the memories, man, of playing early shows and, learning how to play drums, learning how to play guitar by listening to Mike Ness. And, everybody knows Mike Ness solo albums are better than Social Distortion. I love them, man. And of course, Social Distortion would get much more commercial. Too commercial. I mean, they got kind of lame in a way. I mean, I don't like, Ball and Chain and all this, covering Johnny Cash. And it's cool, man. I can dig it. But I like this noisy. They weren't really country or cowpunk yet. They were like a noisy rock garage band here. It's not really punk. I guess it is punk for the time. But today, this isn't punk, man. This is just rock and roll. On the underground. If Tom Petty went underground in a garage and he was in a shitty studio, he would sound like this. But this, of course, is much better. And such a tragedy, this band. I'll swear these guys must have 5, 6, 7 guys dead. And man, Mike is still standing. But so many. I mean, I can see why they have the cowpunk blues, the rockabilly blues. I mean, it's been a tragedy, man. Even before the tragedies, it was tragic here. Man, I love it. Social Distortion, Mike Ness, this first album. I don't really care about the stars. I give this thing a 100 out of 5 or out of 10 just for, I don't care if people, don't like it, whatever. But the Creeps, killer, killer song. Another State of Mind, awesome. All of it, just noisy, really snarly, noisy guitar, poorly recorded. This is such a poor, lousy recording, and that's what makes it so great. Side 1 is killer, man. All 4 songs. Telling Them. Side 2 gets a little repetitious, but I love it, man. I fucking love all 5 of these songs. You gotta love Mommy's Little Monster and Anti-Fashion. All of it. Nothing influenced me more. Did Greg Ginn influence me more than this? For songs like Ben is Dead? Sure. Greg and his guitar, the way he plays leads out of the rhythm, he just explodes. Like he's Ted Nugent or something. It's really weird. But these guys, man, these fucking guys here are important guys in rock and roll. I don't want to say punk, because it's almost like this is country or something, or like garage rock, like, in the same vein as like the Electric Prunes or bands way back in the 60s, like the Stooges and Iggy Pop. This is like, this first album anyway, it's not really got that country punkabilly thing yet. They're rock and roll here, and I fucking love it. It's garage. These guys are all good, man. Great guitars, Mike and Dennis. So sad he died, man. And Brent died, bassist, man. There's a lot of guys dead. It's a real tragedy, and Derek on drums, killer, fucking. This first album's killer. I don't think they ever did a better album. They went commercial really quick. And, they were a underground rock and roll band here. For sure. Garage, the Creeps. Melodic, very melodic. For how distorted and grimy and rocking garage this is. You almost get like a professional, just this beat. This nice fat beat is always going through it. I love it. And Mike definitely has a voice that is all his own. I wish they could have mixed things up more. I wish this band had more diversity, more variety. And of course, when they went commercial, there's things good about that, but those other bands, you can honestly say these guys in Bad Religion were the bands that introduced commercial. Of course, Black Flag with Henry Rollins, TV Party, that's commercial, but I don't mean commercial like Van Halen or Phil Collins. I mean commercial for punk rock, for the underground garage snarling guitars, for Mike and his solo albums and Social Distortion to sort of start out way back in the early days with this, to where they ended up with some nice, like Tom Petty sounding tunes. I don't mean that he sounds like Tom Petty. I mean he's got that country, rockabilly, punkabilly, nice rock and roll thing going. And when he goes commercial, it's really convincing. They're still good, and you're still giving them mad respect, man. Even though they used to be this great garage band way back in the day here on Mommy's Little Monster. Killer album, man. Killer. I think it could have been better sometimes, and I say that about all the punk bands that influenced me. Clark the Shark at 1-800-449-8255. But no band and no guitar. These two guys that did these guitars on this album, when I sang Star and I played Star and I played all those songs on Going Legit, and then later, Manipulation and the White Black song and a whole bunch of other songs, it is Mike Ness and Social Distortion much more than Greg Ginn, much more than the Ashton sound of the Stooges. It is these guys with their garage, which later became this really killer country punk, punkabilly, rockabilly shit, man. I love it. I fucking love this shit. 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show. And Alan Mulch, bro, wherever you are, God bless you for getting me into all these bands. I was already into this, but just all this other interesting, noisy shit where I wanted to go home at 251 and tear holes into speakers and create this fuzz tone, like this underground garage, grungy, distorted tones that I wanted to just say I invented. Me, Clark the Shark. I want to say I started it all. Like I invented grunge in 1985, but of course, it is not true, people. The Stooges, Black Flag, and this album right here, Social Distortion, and Mike Ness and Dennis, they were way before me. And God bless all these guys, and God rest their souls. All these guys in Social Distortion who died, man. I hope Mike Ness lives to be 105, man. I hope he lives forever. He's such a great guy. He's such a spiritual guy. And he's just such an interesting guy, man. And he deserves a lot more notoriety. Even though they do get a lot of respect, a lot of notoriety, it still seems like people talk about lousy bands from the 90s who I don't even want to mention their names. I know a lot of them worked hard too. They were out in garages, touring in vans. They didn't know they were going to be huge. Nobody knew. But I can honestly say, way back in the early 80s, Mike had every idea he was going to be something important with this album. And he did a few retoolings and made this little project here into a big commercial project that is all over the radio and deserves much more respect and notoriety than they get. I'm going to tell you right now, buy this album, and if you see this guy say, Clark the Shark loves you, man, Mike, and your solo albums too, awesome. I love those solo albums even more than these albums. And after a while, I don't really like when these guys get too commercial. I don't know, man. It's cool, I guess, but commercial music where people are trying to get on the radio, There's something about it that I don't like. Even if the songs are really good hits, I'm always saying, man, this fucking shit is trying to get on the radio. It's trying to get payola. And I can honestly say that Social Distortion, Mommy's Little Monster, was just trying to sound good way back in the early 80s when Clark the Shark was 17, 18 years old, and me and Jim Moody and Alan Mulch, and I'm sure Jim Aviani, and lots of guys around the South Bay, Torrance, Redondo Beach, San Pedro, Hermosa Beach. We were all getting into stuff like this, trying to outpunk each other, trying to show, hey, I know more about alternative than you. Of course, nobody knows more than Sharky, because I knew Lou Reed, and I knew the Stooges, and I knew shit from the 60s, and how it relates to the Stooges and Iggy Pop. I knew that, the Electric Prunes really started everything, but I could say the Count Five, the Music Machine, and the Who, a quick one. Those are the catalysts that led to the Stooges and Iggy Pop. And of course, I don't even really like the Sex Pistols because to me, there's something about the Damned and the Sex Pistols that seems really processed or something. I mean, they're fucking killer. They're good bands, good albums. But Social Distortion and Mike Ness and Mommy's Little Monster, they came along when I was 17 and 18 in Torrance, in Redondo Beach, in Hermosa Beach, and they made me want to play guitar. I wanted to be a punk rocker, but still have long hair and still play heavy metal and worship both styles. And I just wanted to be in a band and do something, man. Drums, guitar, singing, fuck, I don't know. But I wanted to do it in honor and because of Mike Ness. I fucking love this guy, man. I fucking love this album. And I love these times when I look back. And, 1983 wasn't a good year for me. When I was 18, I felt like shit. I was isolated from people at South High. I began to isolate myself, man. But I went home and I would listen to this album. And I would listen to these albums, these punk albums. And I would get into KNAC, that radio station, before it went heavy metal. It was called KNAC. And I would get into just all these fucking killer sounds from Arthur Lee and Love. And just all these sounds from the 60s. And I loved it, man. But, the Stooges, Iggy Pop, God bless them. But if you ask me, which album do I like more? Do I like the Stooges Funhouse? Or do I like Social Distortion, Mommy's Little Monster? I like this album more because where that album kind of gets repetitious and lame, I like the way this album is repetitious and lame more. It speaks to me at 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show, from the golden EIB Sharkerphone. It's not a microphone, baby. It's a Sharkerphone. And you just got the only review of this music, this album, that you're ever going to need. You got the most important review because I bought this album and I grew up listening to these albums. And I will admit, I got disappointed in this band when they started to go more commercial. They got more cowpunk, punkabilly. I fucking dig it. I love it, man. I even like bullshit like the Stray Cats. I love it a lot, man. And Richie Valens and, fuck, dude. Gene Vincent, Elvis and shit, dude. I fucking love it all. But somehow this album, it wasn't really that yet. This is rock and roll, punk rock, rock and roll. But later on, they would take that Johnny Cash, that shit, man. And it's almost like they perfected it or something. And it was good, but I kind of hated it and I kind of fucking loved it at the same time. At 1-800-449-8255, the Clark the Shark Show. I want you to support Mike Ness and Social Distortion, because you won't hear a better album than this one. Very early. Excuse the sound quality. They were cutting down on costs. It wasn't done in a real studio. It was like basically recorded live at the Casbah, people. And it is a soundboard recording, and it fucking sounds like it, but I love it. 1-800-449-8255, The Clark the Shark Show. Buy this album and buy all their shit, even when it gets punkabilly commercial. You know, it's on the radio and they become America's house band. I don't care, man, because everyone knows GE is America's house band, not at YouTube. You know, the fake plays at YouTube, the fake payola at YouTube. Don't watch things at YouTube. What I recommend you do, make a Vimeo account of your music, and then you put your Vimeo so that they play right away on Blogger, and then you link your code at Vimeo so that it plays right away, and you loop it and you play it on Vimeo. And baby, that's why so many people watch Clark the Shark and the Greenhouse Effect. It's not because of YouTube. I can't be on there because they're just going to ban and delete my accounts like they have in the past. And if you want to hear my music, Clark the Shark Hagens and the Greenhouse Effect, you got to go, first of all, you Google it, baby, you know, and then you find it, and it will be not so much on Vimeo. It's going to be on Blogger. And I'm going to teach you guys out there who have bands how to make a blog, how to get real web traffic, real SEO. I'm going to show you the real ways to do it. There's a little bit of payola involved. Of course, if you want to get seen the way I do, and the way people see my music out there, you got to do it. But YouTube will ban and delete your account if you try to do it. YouTube only works with record labels. They only work with liberals. If you try to pump up your views at YouTube and you're not some kind of liberal or some kind of Kardashians, hip-hop, you know, or something on a major label or major Hollywood connection, if you're not one of those things, YouTube may ban and delete and or age restrict and or demonetize your account. And I'm here to tell you, people, monetization is not that important. What you want is views, and you want real engagement. You want people to listen to your music, listen to your songs. And I can show you how to do that. Clark the Shark at 1-800-449-8255. Put your music on Vimeo, and then put your Vimeo so that they play onto your Blogger blog. This is a good old-fashioned do-it-yourself trick, people. The Clark the Shark from the Greenhouse Effect knows, and I will teach you. It's pretty easy. You can literally learn this in 10 seconds or 1 minute. And don't mess around with YouTube. And I want you to take your punk rock do-it-yourself DIY spirit that you learned from bands like Mike Ness and Social Distortion, Mommy's Little Monster, this album right here. I want you to record your own songs, be original, put them on Vimeo and Blogger, and have a fun, good time, baby. I'll even show you how to get traffic, and you can email me at CLAHAGIN@AOL.com, Clark the Shark Hagens. And I want you to buy this album by Mike Ness. I want you to buy Mike Ness's solo albums more than Social Distortion, but I want you to buy every Social Distortion album because they are very interesting. Even if they do get commercial, I don't care. It's good shit. 1-800-449-8255, The Clark the Shark Show from the golden EIB Sharkraphone, and you just got the word, baby. And I'm out of here. Peace. That's the VR.